if I can invite our candidates for activities officer down to the floor, please. Okay, welcome back everybody. Thank you for coming back. We're going to get started with our questions for our candidates for the role of activities officer. So we have Emily and Anna here today going to answer some of your questions. I'm going to give you each 2 minutes to kind of introduce yourselves, what's on your manifesto, what you're about. And then you can each ask each other one question. So Emily, if you're happy to start, we'll start with you. Please, if you can set up the democracy. It's not on.
Hi, I'm Emily. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the current activities officer, so I'm running for re-election of my position. A bit about me, so I was a natural science student. It was absolutely awful, I hated my degree. Sorry for anybody in natural science. But I was Pendle Netball president, I was Pendle JCR president, and I was president of Harry Potter Society as well when I was a student. I was also on the sports committee when I was a student as well. But over the past year I've had the privilege of working alongside lots of different sports teams, societies and student leaders all across campus. What this role has shown me that being activities officer is far more about attending meetings or publishing manifestos. It's about showing up consistently, listening to students properly and being prepared to advocate for students, even when those conversations are challenging, and believe there have been a lot that have been challenging this year. But this year, some of the things that I really wanted to work on was the access fund. So this year, I got £150,000 for the access fund for activities this year, which has benefited over 150 students this year. Something that I struggled with when I was a student, so being able to pay for memberships and things, so that's why I wanted to take away that stress for the students. Some of the things that I've done, so working with books nationally to help neurodivergent students, has been something that I've taken a lot of pride in. So I've learnt through these experiences how decisions have really made. I've built strong working relationships with the SU and university staff, so I understand where the barriers exist and how to challenge them constructively. That knowledge really matters, especially in this position, because you don't have time to cause progress. So I won't be starting from scratch, I'll be continuing on what I've been doing. God, that really scared me. But yeah, next year what I want to work on is I want to open society affiliations next year. I know the context behind this, I know how we can work towards pushing for that and getting more societies affiliated. I want to work towards reducing the car parking costs and also reducing the cost of sports centre, for example, so working to reduce the cost of sports passes. But yeah, there's a few other things in there, but my manifesto is online if any of you want to have a read. Thank you.
And Anna, if you'd like to introduce yourself and your manifesto, so let's got the timer going.
Hiya, I am Anna, and I'm this running for activities officer. This year I'm currently sat on a sports committee, so I'm a women's plus intervarsity rep, and I'm also on Roses committee, and I have been for the past 2 years, so I have a little bit of insight there as well. But one of the main reasons that I'm running this year is because of the impact that sports and societies have had on me. Honestly, it's been fundamental to my university experience, and I think had I not had the sports club that I had, I probably would have dropped out early on in university. And I think that everyone should sort of have the access to sport and societies, and everyone should sort of find their sense of belonging and purpose at university, which doesn't necessarily come from your degree, but it comes from sort of the friends and the people that you meet sort of within those clubs. But this year, obviously, rising costs have been a massive sort of barrier to students accessing sports and societies. So one of my key things in my manifesto is sort of accessible participation and making so expanding the work that Emily's done this year on the Sports Access Fund, and also establishing a societies access fund so students and societies are able to feel as though they are participating as well. I also want to put students first, so students should be prioritised within on university campus. It's a campus of students, and so they should come first. So things looking at like space allocation, parking review and things like that. And obviously as a Women's Plus athlete, I want to make sure that every woman feels included and feels as though they have a platform to participate. But ultimately I think you know, everyone should have the opportunity to participate and have a space where they feel like they're involved and shouldn't be held back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm now going to give both of you the opportunity to ask a question to the other candidate. So Anna, we'll start with you and your question to Emily.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, how would you say you split your time across sports and societies, and would you do anything differently if you were re-elected?
It's actually a really easy answer to this because I colour code my calendar between sports and societies, and Liam knows this because I know with it. It's a 50-50 split between sports and societies, and I make sure that whenever I'm doing admin work such as answering emails or answering questions from students, I split it in 50-50, so it's similarly things like when I'm chairing sports and societies committee, I split that time 50-50 in preparation for that and kind of like actions afterwards. Was your question what I do differently? Yeah. What I do differently is probably working on a few big things rather than a few, like a lot of little things. That's something that I said in my interview as well. I think working on a few big things that I know I can get done is probably something that I do differently.
And if you would like to ask Anna your question.
Yeah, so in your manifesto, a number of the pledges that you kind of want to put forward in initiatives that are already underway, what would you do differently to kind of like put them initiatives forward? It's like pass the pass.
So obviously, as I mentioned, you've already done a lot of work in regards to the Sports Access Fund, but I'd like to ensure that sort of it's accessible for loads of students and not just those who fit into the criteria of traditional sort of widening participation backgrounds. So I'd like to make sure that students who might have sort of external funding or might have sort of on paper money, but like in practice they don't have the money to be able to afford things like sports and society, so I want to make sure that they're accessible. Also, we don't currently have a societies access fund in the same way that we do the sports that's set up for individuals. And so I think societies and sports are equally important in that, and so creating a societies access fund where individuals are again able to access sort of that extra funding, I think is going to really benefit them. And obviously, as you said, so there are other things that are already underway, but it's just making sure that we make progress on them.
Thank you both very much. I'm now going to open questions up to the floor, so if anybody has any questions, please raise your hand and she will come and find you. The first one is in the middle there.
Thank you, Chief. A question mainly aimed for societies. And Emily, what support this year have you provided to treasurers? Obviously there's been the major change with bringing the banking in-house, and I know a lot of treasurers have really struggled with that. And going forward for both of you, what support are you going to give treasurers who have quite a challenging job? Thank you.
I'll let Emily answer first.
So yeah, obviously we kind of as an office team have worked a lot this year to try and obviously mitigate the impacts of moving in-house banking, which I know firsthand how difficult that has been for students. So when a lot of the issues came forward, we raised it to the trustee board and we got basically all the backlog cleared after that. Something else that we did was that we set out FAQs onto how it would work, that sort of thing. So I helped write them, and we kind of helped tweak some of the wording of it because some of it wasn't as useful, and there were some things that I knew in there that would be a lot more helpful. On the sort of side, I mean, I fully will admit now that it has not been a good system at all this year, and it's something that has been a real personal frustration for me, because when people come and speak to me, I want to be able to help them as much as I can, and it's something that obviously was decided on trustee board before either of us three were on trustee board, and it's something that I hope that what I've been doing this year and some of the work that I've been doing with some of the operational staff members, next year there's going to be a new system in place that is a lot easier to use and will be a lot more kind of face value, a lot easier to use for all groups, like JCR, sports and societies included. Next year, what I would do is we want to standardise the training offer for all sports societies and JCRs. So next year, what I would do is have standardised training that is available online and in person. So if you have any accessibility requirements, you're able to kind of watch online, you're able to watch it back. So if you have a question, you think, oh, I'll just go back and watch that. You can also go in person if you want to ask questions. I would also put out there that I want standardised procedures that don't change every few weeks, and that if specific groups have specific needs, that then also routes will be written down, and that wouldn't change as well, if that answers your question.
Thank you.
And Anna, if you'd like to answer how you support societies with their finances?
So I am currently club captain of Equestrian, and I've been working quite closely with my treasurer this year. Given that we train off campus and we sort of have to pay weekly for lessons, we really struggled with that element because we submit our invoices and they don't get paid. So we've spoken to Chris about it, and he's kind of said that we could maybe look at implementing a system where we have sort of bank cards for students who need those that are operated within the in-house banking system. So I think that's definitely something that we can look at, because then we can sort of get faster payments out to those who need it, and sort of, as Emily mentioned, sort of the standardised training in terms of treasurers and where sort of their money's sitting, what who's sort of got access to the money. I think is going to be a really important thing, because currently sort of it's not very transparent in terms of where your money actually is. It's just sort of sitting in a bank account that you can't access. So sort of a bit more transparency regarding that, I think, is going to be really helpful for the treasurers.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Do we have any more questions from the floor? I think over here, hold up first.
Hi, I'm a member of SEGO, and there's a bit of a thought and mentality that applying for LUSU funding is really tricky, really hard, which I bet it is. I'm not on the exec yet, so I can't really speak for them, but applying for transport funding when we go on these big national camps, I know is a big issue for events officers and our treasurer. What would you do to make it easier to apply for transport funding?
Would either of you like to put this one first?
So obviously there is sort of a ring-fence societies fund, which students can use to help fund their societies. However, it's not very well advertised. When I was looking for sort of information online, I had to do a real deep search, and so sort of more making that more publicly available and more well known to society, so that they can access that, and then also sort of having it open throughout the year rather than just sort of at the beginnings of terms, and you can also not apply for funding post something, which I think is quite unfair, given that you might not necessarily have planned for the event in sort of far enough time. So I think being able to seek funding post an event after you've happened could also be really beneficial, and allow more students to access societies and things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say a few things. So the ring fence funding for societies isn't actually ring fenced. It's given to LUSU, and it is quite a lot of money actually. It's around about £10,000 that we have every year. And that money is given to Societies Committee each year. So Societies Committee will have applications sent to them, and they will decide if it is viable, if it is something that is sustainable, that sort of thing. So that's just that kind of thing. And you can apply for funding post the event as well, so you can apply. So for example, we had a specific event that happened with Societies Committee, and they applied for funding for after it happened. But I think, so something that we did this year, which I thought was really beneficial, which is something that I would work on next year, that I've kind of already started planning, is we got 2 new minibuses this year, which was, the old ones were awful, absolutely awful. My Fiat 500 tin can awful, right? But we got 2 new minibuses, and they are able to be booked out by society. So I know, for example, society wants to book a trip, they can like use that minibus, for example. I think it's a lot cheaper than if you were to like buy a train to go, if somebody was to drive and we reimburse the petrol, and it can obviously take a lot more people. So that's an option there. There's other options as well where we could always go to the Vice Chancellor. I'm more than happy to argue with the Vice Chancellor about anything. But we could always go to the Vice Chancellor and say, like, look, this is something that is an issue. Because obviously there's a lot of people that do a lot of groups. Like, say for example, I know like Welsh Society did a trip to go watch the rugby, something like that. That obviously costs transport. And if it's something that's costing people out of going, there's obviously legal, like if there's another part of an access fund that we could set up for that. So there is a society's access fund this year for individuals, so people can apply for it if they're having trouble kind of buying memberships, that sort of thing. So there's always something we could do there where it could be a separate pot or something like that.
Thank you both very much. So I'm going to take a question from online that is directed at both of you, and it says, how are you expecting to find more flat floor space for societies to use? And we'll start with Emily this time.
This is my favourite topic, right? I love a bit of flat floor space. So my ideal world, and I have made this very clear to the Vice Chancellor already, I want a building. We are one of only like 3 student unions in the country that doesn't have their own building. Usually, so like we went to Leeds, for example, at the start of the year, and they have loads of different rooms, and they will obviously have like societies use that, book it out, that sort of thing. I want a building. That is obviously not going to happen in the next year. Let's all be realistic at how long it took them to build engineering too. That's not going to happen. But it's something that I think that the university needs to prioritise societies. Another example of this is when they've done a management school, and they said they were going to put flat floor space in, and they put like built-in computers into the middle of the rooms. You can't actually use flat floor space. So there's different kind of ideas there. I want a building, first of all. There's not as realistic, but you know, we'll try. There's other areas of that where, for example, there's like Lancaster Arts will flat book like the Great Hall, for example, or places there, so that even when we book Freshers Fair, it takes us ages to get it approved because they are really like pissy about it for some reason. I don't like to say that. They're not like thing about it for some reason. So there's things like that. Why is that being used by an external company and why is it not being used by student groups? But then thirdly, it's like when they are designing new buildings or designing new like regional places, they need to prioritise flat floor space and they need to have that built into the plans going forward. So these 3 things were actually agreed by Societies Committee a few weeks ago. I can't remember, the weeks all blur into one. And I'm going to bring that to the Vice Chancellor like literally on Friday when I get back to work. But yeah, I love a bit of flat floor space.
Thank you. And Anna?
Yeah, so obviously it's sort of a difficult one because there's only as much space as the university has. But sort of as Emily said, with the Lancaster Arts taking up a lot of the space and sort of booking it in sort of mass slots when these slots can be available to students, and sort of if there's an issue of sort of moving equipment, that people are trained so that they know where to move the equipment, and so therefore those spaces become accessible and available to societies to use, and also sort of more generally utilisation of spaces when they sit sort of empty and not in use. I know it's sort of difficult with like sort of your George Fox flat floor space, given that you've got people constantly moving in and out, but where there are spaces that are big enough for societies to use and they sit empty, I think those spaces could be sort of better utilised sort of during the day if there's sort of availability for that, just so that societies aren't limited to sort of evening trainings only.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions from the floor? We'll go in the middle first.
Which?
In the white t-shirt. Thanks, G.
Thank you. Izzy Sanders, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of the Lancaster Tab. There's been discussion, particularly in the comments of our social media posts, that free speech, particularly of right-wing societies, is being inhibited, tied up with the issue of Reform not being allowed to affiliate. Do you think Reform should be allowed to affiliate as a society this coming year?
Is this addressed to both candidates? Yes. Yeah, we'll start with Emily then.
So this is something that I can obviously comment on from my experience being on the trustee board. There is a legal requirement that we can't block any societies from affiliating due to kind of their political nature. So that is obviously what happened kind of with the AGM last year. I think that this campus is such a beautiful space, and there's so many different communities here, and that should be protected. And I think that if anybody is kind of prohibiting that or making anyone feel uncomfortable, that there's no space for that here. But the thing about like comments on Instagram and things, I think there's an issue, a larger issue, not just even with what you were touching on, just kind of in things in general. I've seen a lot of images and comments over my time in the year of groups and just individuals commenting things like quite misogynistic things on Instagram comments. Something that I've actually had like people comment at me while I've been in this position. So it's something that me and Leah worked on this year, kind of like for women plus in leadership positions and making them feel more comfortable, more safe. So that's something that I would want to push next year. That's kind of obviously tied in. But yeah, there's obviously like legal limitations to it, regardless of my own opinions. But yeah.
Thank you. And Anna?
So obviously, so as Emily said, you know, there has to be a space where they can sort of express their views, provided that their views are not encroaching on other people's rights. I think that's important. And so if that issue comes about, then that's obviously something that we will need to address. But you know, that's, you know, you can't limit someone's freedom of speech given sort of that they have rights as well. However, as soon as sort of it starts encroaching on other people's rights, that's when we can start sort of raising questions. Obviously, it's a difficult topic, but you know, I think you can't sort of put a sort of blanket ban on something like that, because then you sort of, as Emily said, sort of breach of the law. So.
Thank you. Great. Any more questions from the floor? Go with you at the back. Sorry, Jean. We're all the way at the back. It's on the stairs.
You got the which one?
So when it comes to affiliations, why is it so hard to actually open them? So I asked last year for it and they said, no, we're not opening them. Now I'm back again to ask. It's an email again at 1 o'clock this morning, but you're down for that. Yeah, well, those are me.
We'll start with Anna this time.
I'm going to be totally honest, it's not a topic that I'm sort of 100% certain on. Obviously, Emily's been in the role this year, so understands a little bit more, but I'm probably not the best person to sort of answer this question, unfortunately.
And over to Emily.
So there's a range of different reasons why, basically. My first one, which is my favourite one, none of this is my favourite because I want societies to be affiliated. But the first one is money. So the block grant that we get from the university, it's not growing with inflation, for example. It's staying pretty stagnant. So things like, for example, the little things that nobody really thinks about. I mean, Rory loves a risk assessment. He would think about this, but health and safety, things like that. We don't have the staff capacity to kind of have more societies. We don't have the capacity to say, for example, like our society's inbox gets hundreds of emails every day, and what we don't want is a situation where we've got another 100 societies affiliated, because there is about that amount on the waiting list currently. We don't want another situation where that is happening and people's emails aren't getting answered, because obviously that is a frustration now anyway. So that's the first one, staff capacity because of money. We need more staff members because we need, but obviously staff members cost money. We need more money. This is something that I've already brought up to the Vice-Chancellor. I'm very, very confident that it's something that we're going to be able to resolve, because they, like, as Emily was saying in her interview before, the Vice-Chancellor understands how important societies are to the union and to the university. Other area is flat floor space, and just space in general is another part of that. I'm not going to touch on that because we already talked about that. And another part of it is just kind of like general like support and space. So like another part of it, we were saying before about the money that Societies Committee have for to give out to societies. Say for example, if you added another like 30% of societies onto what we already have, and that funding stayed the same, does that mean technically that 30% less societies are going to get approved for this funding pot? Because it needs to grow at the same rate. So there's a few different facets to it. And the thing is that we don't want to open affiliations when we haven't got every single one of them solved, because say for example you fix the money problem, you fix the like the space problem, there's maybe other issues like staffing for example, but yeah, we want to be able to support the societies that we do have now, but also support new ones in the same way as well. Something that I'm not keen on is I don't want to affiliate new societies and think, oh, but you can't get funding if you affiliate and all that sort of thing, because it's not fair, and it creates a tiered system which isn't fair on everyone. But it's very complicated. But yeah.
That's a follow-up.
Yeah.
What if a society doesn't need any kind of support whatsoever? It just needs to be affiliated.
Yeah. I mean, that's similar to what I was saying about kind of like a tiered system. Like, it's not fair to kind of some groups, for example, I wouldn't want to affiliate someone who doesn't need it because they don't in space of other ones that do need it, if that makes sense.
And judo society,
Yeah.
the club has existed for about 50 years, and we died because of COVID because everyone left. But
Yeah, fair enough.
we're back again, and we have our own insurance, our own floor space, everything's sort of got a huge bank account,
Yeah.
everything's ran, well oiled. It just,
Okay, but let me ask you a question. Would you want to go to Freshers' Fair? Yeah.
I'd do it.
Yeah, so then there's a space issue there with like the
Oh,
space
yeah.
for Freshers' Fair. This is what I mean, there's like...
outside of the commies.
Well, there's issues there, this is what I mean, there's like loads of different small issues too that are bringing up, but yeah, it's something that I want to do next year, that I want to open, because there's loads of groups that are waiting, for example, like judo, that are waiting to be affiliated.
Thank you, but can I just remind people to please use the microphone when they're asking questions? Sorry, Chief. Okay, we're going to take a question from Sivan and then a question from online, please. In your own time, Chief. just Sivan and Philip.
Like a meet halfway.
Sorry, I'm just
I used their name this time.
Okay, so both of you in your manifestos mentioned working on trans-plus access to sport. Could you go into some more detail on what you've done on that, and also what you would like to do on that in the next year?
We'll start with Anna again. I think Emily starts it twice in a row.
So obviously the EHCR decision on trans athletes has massively impacted students this year, with sort of certain governing bodies within sports sort of saying trans athletes can't participate up to a certain level, and obviously that's massively unfair, but you know, the governing bodies are sort of there for a reason. So sort of something that I'd really like to do is, and I mentioned in my manifesto, is more sort of development and play sessions, so that sort of, athletes and sort of students feel like they have a space to come participate, no matter what. I'd also like to make sure that we make it clear within sports and societies whether, sort of, especially sports, sort of to what level that they can sort of access the sport up to, whether they can just come to trainings or whether they're able to participate in bucks and compete outside of the university, given a national governing body. So that's something that I'd really like to sort of continue to work on as we sort of get more of the NGB decisions in.
So this was something that obviously with the Supreme Court ruling came up in literally our first week in office this year. So it's something that I have worked really closely with Leah, Sabine and Nixon, who is President of Women in Sport this year. So we set up a campaign around trans access to sport and kind of what we could do as individuals to make trans students feel more comfortable and safe at Lancaster. So this started around Freshers' Fair. So what we did was we created a list of all of the sports that had that were open to trans athletes from the NGB laws. So that was provided through when I contacted Bucks, and they sent me like a massive list. We made this really public, so we did a poster that went around Freshers' Fair, we did leaflets, that sort of thing, so that students could scan this QR code and look to see what sports were accessible to them, with it being discreet, but then also give them some more information, because we thought that freshers coming in, they might never have interacted with the EHRC before, or the Supreme Court, that sort of thing, so they might not know about it, so it's also that awareness piece. And secondly, what we did after that was we worked with, I messaged quite a few of my sports officer colleagues at different universities, and we are making a map of basically lots of different university facilities and the different gender-neutral facilities that they have there, so that when people go and compete at different universities, they kind of know straight off the bat where the gender-neutral facilities are. And also, lastly, what we did is, so I brought a sports committee a few weeks ago, and what me and Sven and Leah and Nixon are bringing to UA next week is we want to make it so that when societies and sports teams re-affiliate, they have to provide, typically for the sports teams, with the NGB. So if anyone didn't know, NGB is National Governing Body. They are the head honchos for sports. They set all of the rules in terms of gender eligibility, everything like that. But states have to abide by whatever they say. It's the law, as much as it is crap, it is the law. So we want to basically, whenever students go on to a group on the website, we want them to have an NGB statement that says, like, look, this is what our NGB says, this is where you can be involved, this is where potentially you can't be involved, not because we're saying that, but because the NGB is saying that. So that is something that we're putting to a union assembly next week, and hopefully we'll go through, and it'll just kind of make the communication about it and the transparency a lot easier. It'll make it a lot easier for trans athletes to kind of realise where they can and can't compete in certain areas. But I also next year want to continue this work, but I also want to do some more national lobbying on it. I think the power that us as students have, and us as student officers in particular have, to change things is so powerful. And I think that this is it was honestly a crap ruling to begin with, but the impact that it's had on sport is unbelievable. And the last thing I would ever want is somebody not to be able to compete in a sport because of their gender. I think it's just stupid, really. But yeah, that's some of the stuff that I've done this year. Really keen for anyone to get involved if you want to. So yeah, please do.
Thank you. So we're going to take a question from online now. I am reading this directly as it is written in front of me. What are you going to do about the sheer lack of car parking? It's great having it cheaper, but if there's nowhere to park, what is the point? And this is directed at both of you. We'll start with Emily.
Okay, so if you didn't know, the university actually oversold parking permits this year. So they actually sold more parking permits than there is spaces on campus, which I'll just leave that with you. But I think first of all, what you do is you don't sell more parking permits than the spaces. That's the first start. Secondly, I think there's a lot of spaces that could be used for car parking. Things like down by, like by Carmel is, sorry, down by there. But I think the cost of it, I know we've said not the cost, but the cost of it is extortionate at the moment, and it is something that, like, I know this is quite bad, but like before you had NPR cameras, sometimes you just didn't pay it because you think if you get fined or not. But now you have to pay every single day, which you were supposed to do to start off with, so I'm not condoning that. However, it is extortionate for what it is, and I think that it's putting people out of being able, like for example, I hate getting on a bus because like I'm autistic and I hate the noise and I can't stand it, but being able to drive is so much easier for me, and being able to park on campus. Last year, I would not have been able to afford to park on campus. It's something I want to work on this year. If people are saying the next year the uni sells all parking permits and there's not enough space, I am more than happy to scream at the Vice-Chancellor / other people who are involved in parking to build new car parking spots. I am fully happy to do that, but I also want to work on the price of it. And I know we said that's not important, but I think it is.
Thank you. And Anna?
Obviously it is extremely frustrating, and I would love a massive multi-storey car park, but I don't think that's quite feasible. But it's especially frustrating given sort of the new energy building by the back of Fylde, which takes up like so much parking spaces that students have now lost access to, and so it's just so annoying that we're being sort of deprioritised by the university in that sense, given that, like, obviously I really understand the importance of the energy building and I'm fully in support, but I think with all the roadworks and everything that goes on around the university, you lose so much of that space, and so I think it's really important that we try and make sure that sort of those get opened up quicker, and we sort of work to make those spaces accessible as well. This is a side note as well, but one thing that I've noticed is quite the sheer lack of sort of disabled parking spaces on campus, and so again that's something that I would like to push for, to make sure that sort of students with accessibility requirements are also sort of have sort of designated parking spaces as well.
Thank you. So we're going to start to wrap this one up, so I can take around 3 more questions from the floor. So if we go to Alex over here. Alex over there.
It's in the first corner of the room.
I think I can predict the answer to this question because it involves money. But obviously a few years ago the societies and sports officers merged into the activities officer role, do you think the activities officer role as it is currently is sustainable long term, or do you think there should be a route back to splitting them?
I think it's difficult because obviously there isn't the money to pay 2 full-time officers, but I think if they were split again into 2 separate roles, I think the full-time officers would be able to give so much more devoted time to sort of particular things that they're passionate about. And I think that they sort of really be able to make much more of an impact, whereas when you're dealing with both sports and societies, you sort of have to decide when you're going to prioritise certain things, and you sort of lose the ability to make a greater impact on sort of one group of students rather than sort of making sort of small impacts on sort of an individual group of students. So I think as much as I would love to sort of separate the roles again, there sort of currently just isn't the money to pay for 2 full-time officers, and so I'm excited if I was to be elected to sort of take on both roles. I'd like to see what I can do to sort of help both where I can, but obviously the impact that you might make would be sort of less if you could devote all of your time and all of your attention to sort of one set group.
Thank you very much.
You already know my answer because we have already had a discussion about this a few times. I think it should be split again. I think that money comes and goes. There is always a university to give us money for things. And also I think it's something that it's a big role, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love my role this year, but it is a lot. You think about the volume of student groups we have, I think it should be split again. I think societies and sports teams naturally are very inherently different. They have different niche topics, they have different needs and support needs. So I think it is something that I've personally enjoyed being able to do too, because I was president of both a society and a sport team, but I think that is pretty rare. I mean, we spoke about this. It is very rare that somebody who is just a society president will run for a position like this, because typically a sport president will run for it and they typically get higher turnout. So it's something that I've enjoyed this year personally. If I had a magic wand, I would make it 2 separate roles. Again, it is a money thing, but I do think that if you pledge your case properly and have the skills to do it, you can get money for what you want.
Okay, so we'll take 2 more questions from the floor. So we'll go right at the back, nice and close to this time, Chi.
Just a quick question about sports funding. I know certain societies, although they compete in national championships, aren't counted as a sport based on the fact that their championship isn't run directly through bucks, it's done through outside ruling bodies. Is that something you'd want to address and change and make the funding open to non-bucks sports, or is that something you want to keep the same? This is for both people.
We'll start with Emily this time.
Yeah, short answer yes. There's for example of that is cheerleading. That's a perfect example, and they're classed as a society. However, they could be classed as a sport if they wanted to. However, they don't have an LGB, social being books. It's something that came up in Rose's committee this year. There's a lot. It's in the Rose's constitution as well that it's very limited on if you don't compete in books, what points you're allocated, that sort of thing. So it's something that I would really want to look at next year. It's something that, in my opinion, is stupid. I think if there's a way that we can get more funding to different groups, then I think we should. I just don't think things like that matter really.
Thank you, and we'll go to Anna.
Yes, shadowing what Emily said there, but where students are competing at the highest level of their sport, so sort of dance, they compete in sort of their big internal competitions, and same with cheerleading, they compete sort of at a national level. They were just at sort of World Cheer this past weekend, and given that sort of they are competing to the same sort of level and same standard as you would expect of a standard buck sport, I don't think it's fair that there's sort of a parity between them in terms of funding. So absolutely, I'd be open to having discussions with sort of Vice Chancellor and the university just to try and get that funding and to make sure that there's that parity there between students who don't compete in the box.
And we've got time for one more question, if anybody has one. No? In that case, we can call it there. Thank you both of you. You're welcome. We're going to take another 5-minute break before we talk to our president candidates, because Rory needs a wee and he is chairing that one.
Stand outside, she's going to come.
Sometimes you can get cheese and running cheese or something. Do you have the shoes to run around? You get half miles in. Well, hopefully these still get to when you get a good problem, you're like, Is she on the door?
I'm not going to town. Everybody, are you going to take it? Are you have to go to no. Your brother
I'm really I'll write it now. I'll write it.
You're a fake fan.
You're a
fake friend. I think
busy.
I even went above and beyond in our coursework by doing it 2 hours before the 12 hours before the deadline. Above and beyond for I did nothing until last night. He's told me to jump over the table.
Anyone, we good to go? Lucas, we good?
Yeah, we're still screaming.
Starting, no one's keeping the pub this time.
It's taped down now. Yeah, I'm not going to knock it again, don't worry.
Delightful. Okay, welcome back. What am I saying? Got the script up. Right, we'll now hear from our 4 presidential candidates. Our 4 candidates are Christina, Sam, Kate, and Usul. But we'll start with Christina. Over to you.
Hello, my name is Christina. So I'm a 3rd year sociology and politics student. I'll start with a little bit about my experience. So I've been working in LUSU for around 2.5 years, nearly 3 years. I got elected onto the county JCR before I was a registered student. I did a co-options in the summer before my first year and got elected in. Just finished my year-long presidency for County College President, and I'm currently now Union Assembly Deputy Chair. I've also just set up the Women's Plus Politics Society this term, so that's going great as well. I'll move on to my 3 key priorities. So we've got student-led decision-making. It's quite broad, but there's a lot to it. It's making sure you guys as students are really involved in those high-level university decision-making processes. Second of all, Women's Plus Safety on and off campus. So that's mainly tackling it from an informing and educating point of view. Instead of teaching women how to deal with it, I want to solve it from the root cause to contribute to the national crisis that is going on. Funding for student travel is my final main point. So I'm campaigning for better financial support for students regarding travelling to and from campus. So that includes a travel access funds where students can apply for bus tickets, annual bus tickets, termly bus tickets, that kind of thing. And then the university can give that to students. A couple of smaller points I've got is making sure that a transparency can be established between LUSU and sports teams, so sports teams can actually have access and the right resources and knowledge to access their own finances, as I know that's been a massive struggle recently. And then we've got as well, I want to improve and promote summer events. So the Summer Ball in my first year was an incredible event, for those of you that did go. And I would like to sort of set something like that up again, or even extras, have that. And yeah, that's sort of all my key manifesto priorities. And yeah, again, my name is Christina, and I'd love to serve you as your next LUSU president.
Thank you. Over to Sam. When you are we ready? When you're ready.
Hi, my name's Sam, my pronouns are she, her, and so a bit about me and what I'm up to at the moment. I'm a member of Societies Committee, and through this position I'm helping to represent the voice of special interest societies, and it's given me a really good understanding of LUSU and how we can engage more students in what's going on, because as I've noticed through my role on this board, I've understood a lot about LUSU, but that's not necessarily the case for most students. I'm also involved in coordinating and a member of several campaigns on campus, working on sustainability, environmental justice and social justice. And finally, I'm a member of the LUSU Student Voice team, working part-time to support student leaders in building community and campaigning on issues that are affecting them. So I'm running for president because I care about a lot of things I believe students also care about. I care that our campus is becoming increasingly hostile to those who are different. I care that students are overstretched, often working part-time jobs in order to be able to pay rent. And I care that our university is helping to arm Israel and precipitate climate collapse. And I don't just care, I act. As I mentioned earlier, I'm involved in different campaigns. I help set up the Student Support the Strikes campaign to defend our education. I support students in creating welcoming communities. And I campaign for a better world, starting here in Lancaster. So by electing me, you're electing a president who is determined to bring positive change and act on the issues that we all care about. And I want to empower other students to join me because these issues cannot be solved alone. So I haven't got time to go through my big 6 manifesto points, but I'll go through the first 3, which is anti-misogyny and anti-hate, affordability, and climate justice and free Palestine. These are things I care a lot about, and I want to see concrete action from LUSU because that, in my opinion, hasn't been forthcoming so far. So thanks for listening.
Thank you. Go ahead. When you are ready, Kate.
Hello, so I'm Kate, I'm the current Lonsdale JCI president. Just a little bit about me first. I have a seat on UA, I represent Lonsdale Weekly at President's Committee, and I'm also one of 4 students who sits on the Student Experience Committee, which means I'm directly involved and I see firsthand exactly how university higher-ups treat the student experience, so I think I'm the best candidate to fight for change at that level. I'm running on 4 key manifesto points, my first being student safety. I've already launched a safety survey. It has over 200 responses from over 25 different universities, and it puts Lancaster in a great context against other unis. It means I can build it nationally if elected, and I can signpost the current initiatives and build new ones, meaning that I'm building initiatives that students want to see and that students need to see. I want to make your degrees feel more worth it as well. You pay for a degree, you should come out of uni feeling employable. Walking back on CTP especially proves that it wasn't ready and that students need more input with decisions around their education. I also want to include employer-led projects in your degrees. I currently do one, and I think it's helping me feel a lot more employable coming out of university. My next point is better recognition for execs. A lot of you guys in this room are already execs, and if you have friends who are execs in societies, you know how hard they work, and you know, I see firsthand myself exactly how hard they work to make this experience better for other students and to make it more worth it. Being an exec, you should come out of being an exec with it being a net positive. You shouldn't feel as though you're losing love and passion for the reason you joined the society in the first place. I want this to come in the form of recognition in a transcript and more clear and timely support. And my final point being better transport. So the annual Uni-Rider bus pass next year will be £499, which is pricing you out of accessing your education and accessing culture, and it could be a detriment to your well-being and your mental health. I want to lobby for an access fund from the university to make this more fair for students. You shouldn't be priced out of accessing a campus that you already pay £9 tuition to access. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great time to come in.
When you are ready, Usul.
Hello, I'm Usul. I didn't know I had to prepare a speech, so what I'm going to do is talk about one of my favourite things, which is colours. I quite like a light maroon at the moment, and I quite like the LUSU purple, which honestly would make me quite a good president because I could wear it all the time. Quite fashionable. I don't think I can talk about colours for 2 minutes. So what I'm going to do is just sit in a bit of awkward silence for a couple of seconds until it beeps.
Try 1 minute, 21 seconds.
I can't do that, take it back.
Fair enough. Thank you. We're going to pass the mic back to you.
That's delightful.
So each of you all have the opportunity now to ask each other questions. That question should be answerable by everyone. Handing straight back to you, Usul.
Yeah, so I thought long and hard about this. So, if you are president, how are you going to bring a bit of whimsy to the office?
Kate.
Oh, I love a bit of whimsy. I would say an office pet, perhaps. I have a gerbil myself, his name's Bill Murray. He's absolutely wonderful. I'd love to bring Bill to the office. He wears little hats. If you go on my Instagram, there's a picture of him holding one of my campaign stickers. I also think a mascot. Lonsdale has a lion, and by God do I love wearing that costume. I would so wear a fursuit.
Serious people. Sam.
I think it would be really great if we had a Joker in LUSU who was dressed in maybe like a bright rainbow wig. So, you know, if you're looking for a job next year, who could like go around, talk to students, let them know what LUSU's up to. Like,
I mean, I'm not looking for a job, but there are a few people around that could have got.
As long as you keep your costume behind.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I think a Joker would be excellent.
So I haven't popped this on my Instagram, but I should have put this in a bit about me. I've actually been a musical theatre kid ever since I was a little girl. I've literally been in plays like I've been pantos, I've been a panto dame before, from dames to head girls, and I've been a leading boy as well when I was younger. So yeah, we could do a LUSU musical. LUSU officers do a little musical, pop it on social media, or even just playing show tunes. And I believe musicals are some of the whimsiest things around, so yeah, that's how I would bring some whimsy to LUSU if I did get the role.
Leave the microphone, Christina. Your opportunity to ask the other candidates a question.
Yeah, so mine is, what do you believe is the single biggest issue facing students right now, and what is your plan to tackle it?
Sam.
I would argue for me there's 6 big issues, which are my 6 manifesto points, but if I had to choose one of them, I think the biggest thing is the increase in misogyny and discrimination that's happening on campus, and I think that's so important because it impacts students' well-being, it impacts whether they can feel welcome on campus and whether they can find their community, and if you're not able to do that, then there's no reason for you to stay. So that's something that I would really like to tackle and to speak out and be more vocal on LUSU's stance that discrimination, misogyny is not acceptable, and support students to ensure that the cultures that they're creating are as welcoming and as inclusive as possible.
Kate?
I absolutely believe the biggest issue is that the university is not consulting students enough. There are so many issues that, them walking back with CTP is enough evidence to prove that not enough student consultation occurred, not enough ground level work was put in through student experience and through student consultation for that decision to happen. I think the university needs to acknowledge that students of all different sorts coming to this university care about what's happening to their education. They seem to be making a lot of decisions that they think students want, but they don't because they're not asking. So I think more ground level consultation from students.
Thank you. And over to you, Saul.
I think we need more engineering buildings. I don't think we're spending money as we should be, and I think honestly, even if we have to knock some things down, I like the idea of putting them on the other side of the M6 and getting them to build a bridge as like a project, and if it fails, then their fault, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think I'm on about 23 engineering buildings now, got hooked in, so yeah.
Fantastic. Kate, your opportunity to ask your fellow candidates questions.
So we've all been involved in LUSU in different ways. And for those who've already held leadership roles within the union, what has stopped you from implementing these changes already?
Over to Usul first.
I think that's an incriminating question and I won't answer it.
To Christina, please.
Thank you. I believe, obviously my biggest leadership role has been JCR president for a year. I felt as JCR president, I never got as much, you don't have as much power as the title sort of says you do. You know, you get voted in, your sort of job is to run the offices that in your team already, and run little events in your colleges, run Titans, help run Freshers Week. So running these sorts of campaigns alongside that, especially it's not a paid role, it's sort of done alongside your degree in your spare time. So there isn't really time to sort of lead these larger scale campaigns in that role when you're a full-time student and also running a team of, up to 13 other officers. So that's why I probably haven't focused on that. However, in Women's Plus Safety, I sort of have started investigating that already with my Women's Plus Safety Politics Society that I set up this term. We have a lot of discussions in the society about experiences in the university and outside the university as to, you know, why we don't feel safe or why we feel like we can't express ourselves in certain areas and situations. But yeah, my leading answer is mainly because my leadership role was not full-time and paid. It was alongside my university degree, alongside running a team of 13 other JCR officers.
Thank you. And Sam.
My first response would be that the university management and the university more widely doesn't listen sufficiently to students, and I've been involved in various campaigns, and so we've had motions passed through Union Assembly, which supposedly has given us LUSU support to go and lobby the university, but the university has either refused to meet with us or has met with us and then sort of not acted on anything we've talked about. So I found that incredibly frustrating. I found that the support from LUSU has also sometimes not been sufficient in helping our campaigns to progress and actually make positive change. So I'm running this role to be able to reverse that, to give me the power to speak at the higher decision-making levels, to advocate for students, and also to provide the support that other future student campaigners might need to ensure that their voice is heard and acted on.
Thank you. Your opportunity now to ask your fellow candidates question.
So the majority of FTOs in recent years have been previous members of a JCR, and I have experienced, and what I think has formed is a sort of LUSU bubble in which officers tend to come from the same sort of social circles and the same experience. And this means that LUSU seems quite inaccessible. Most students have never been in the offices, they don't feel welcome there, and they don't know how LUSU can support them. So I would like to know what you would do to ensure that all students feel represented and feel like they are a member of LUSU, which they are.
Fantastic. To Christina first.
Thank you, that's a really great question. I think it's about being transparent and open. I mean, LUSU, obviously, they promote a lot of stuff on their social media, they have union assemblies regularly. I think, personally, union assembly is probably the best way to do that, to include students from all different areas of the student body, because we have societies there, we have sports there, we have academics there. You know, I think that's probably utilising that space, promoting it more, using posters, sending out emails, invites to, you know, society execs and leaders. I think that's probably the best space to utilise that and actually bring lots of students from different areas together.
Thank you. Over to Usul.
Really is like plastic bottle. I think maybe the cheapest and simplest option is just to get rid of all the other FTOs apart from president. Because you can't really gatekeep things if it's just you. I mean, you can, but then it's all just on you, innit? Yeah.
And Kate?
I think the best solution would be a lot more like ground level communication between LUSU and students. UA is a really good opportunity to come and see what the union gets up to, but you don't actually get to know the FTOs one-to-one or anything more about them by what you see on social media or in the newsletters that get sent out. I think having more option for open forums and more frequent communication channels that happen in person between everyday students and LUSU is the step forward.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to open questions up to the room now, but I will first ask one that is online. So this is a question for everyone. How would you support students in the cost of living crisis? Who would like to go first? Ursula, start us off.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Do you want to keep?
So every single college has a community cupboard and food bank. It's not well signposted. They exist and they're topped up weekly by college SCRs. Making sure that these are signposted is a good step towards cost of living support. I also want to revive the LUSU food bank, whether it's through means of donations or through funding from the university. But I think the first step forward is a lot more clear signposting as to what support already exists for cost of living. Lobbying the university for an access fund for transport is another step. You shouldn't be priced out of accessing your campus. We pay a lot of tuition to come here. We're already priced out of living on campus. We shouldn't be priced out of accessing it either.
Thank you. Sam?
So talking about food, which is one of the big things, especially on campus, the majority of food is far too expensive for students to even think about. And I would like to bring back and increase the cheap eats food service offer that used to be available in Prindle Brew and was very popular but has now sort of disappeared. And slightly more ambitious, but something that I'd really like to see is an SU-run food hatch, which is based off something I've seen in Bristol, where they serve soup for £1, hot meals for £2 every day, and it means that students can get sort of affordable and nutritious food on campus, which at the moment we're sort of left only with takeaways, so that doesn't always appeal to all students. And then looking at sort of rent and buses as well, the university is aware that these are becoming, or have already become, unaffordable for students, and the new Vice-Chancellor and university management is seeming more willing to engage in discussions, so I'd be really looking to push these discussions further, follow up with them, and just advocate for the importance of students being able to afford to come to university, because otherwise people are going to stop coming.
Thank you. Christina.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously I've got my main manifesto points about travel access funds. So yeah, I think it's really important to explore every single avenue to ensure we can get that going. So meetings with the Vice-Chancellor, meetings with Stagecoach, trying to lobby alumni as well. Obviously the Sports Access Fund has a lot to do with alumni donations as well. So that's a really important avenue to explore. And I think again, the LUSU Pantry was incredible when it was set up, and it would be great to look at doing something like that again, because I think it's so helpful for students to just pop in and grab whatever bits of food they could as and when. Also, one of my secondary manifesto points was increasing free food near exam periods, because obviously they're a time of really high stress and the cost of living is just an added factor on top of that. So I think things like free breakfasts and free lunches, you know, sort of brain food for exams is a really, really cool way to go with that. So yeah, that's what I would do to help with the cost of living crisis.
Thank you very much. Okay, opening up to the room. Any questions? I'm going to go this way around. So Sven first, please.
So, as Sam touched on briefly earlier, LUSU sometimes has some trouble keeping up with their commitments to student initiatives, and if anything passes through Union Assembly. Do you have any ideas on how you might try and improve this in your tenure?
Can I have some clarification on that, on the part about initiatives to go through Union Assembly, please?
There are a lot of motions that have passed Union Assembly and things that have passed into Students' Union policy which end up not being acted on. Some of this is from handover from other full-time officers, some of this is just lack of staff to put them into place. Do you have any ideas on how you might combat that?
Yeah, so I think it's just about keeping track. I mean, maybe things get lost in communication, lost in translation. I mean, I'm guessing a lot of the full-time officers have probably heaps of work that they're trying to keep on top of and trying to keep up to speed with. So I think it's about maybe creating some sort of tracker, maybe adding a calendar for all of the, you know, officers to pop in, okay, this is what got passed on this day, what can we do about this? I think it's just about keeping track of it. I mean, I'm not really sure what else you could do there, because yeah, if things are getting lost in motion, I think we need to find the root cause of why that is.
So I would push for whenever motions are being passed for there to be a designated person in charge of following that up and engaging with the students who pass that motion through. There's also engaging with the students in the process before having passed the motion, because it's not a simple process and you sort of go to all this effort to get it through and then yeah, nothing happens. So making sure there's a clear designated person who those students can go to and get support and work together to implement the policy. And then something that personally I would be really interested in doing is meeting with the students that pass these campaigns. As a campaigner myself, I'm very experienced in working with university management, in working with LUSU, and in interacting with other students and knowing how to sort of get my point across and negotiate changes. So I would be willing to meet with the students who pass the motions and to share my knowledge and experience with them.
I think a big issue in LUSU is the many communication channels that you can find yourself getting lost in. So I think making sure that after a motion is passed or after something goes through in LUSU, ensuring that the correct channels are signposted, where to go, and that there is constantly someone checking up and following on from these motions being passed.
I mean, who better to terrorise somebody to get something done than me? You know what I mean? Yeah, I will very happily just turn up to the Vice Chancellor's office and knock on the door without telling him, surprise, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Great, thank you. Back to the floor, any other questions? Over at the back there with Tam.
Hi, we've heard a lot about Women's Plus safety in a lot of you guys' manifestos, and your manifesto includes a pledge to get rid of confession pages. Although we are aware that the SU are unable to police students' social media usage, what would be your clear and concise three-step plan in combating what the university has called inappropriate commentary that features on these confession pages?
Just for clarity, is that a question for everyone or just for Usul?
Yeah, it's for everyone.
Okay. Kate, would you like to go first?
It's very hard to police what people say online, but I think making sure that students are aware of exactly who they can contact if things that are said online do affect them in any way. The union should be a place where everyone feels as though they are able to say what they think, but if it's getting to the point where it is affecting others' well-being, there should be very clear and timely signposting to where support is available to them. I also think making sure that there are regular drop-in sessions as well, so, and a clear and concise reporting system for when things like this are said, so that LUSU can choose to opt in or opt out of making statements around it.
Over to Usul.
Yeah, so this is one of my big campaign points, and I think it's definitely something that the student union actually needs to kind of put a stance on. I think this kind of thing, especially with confession pages that you're talking about, is something that personally I think is kind of brought from kind of secondary school behaviour. And yes, it's funny to be like, oh yeah, I saw this in the library and it was hilarious, that's great. But if you're going to talk about somebody describing them, talking about your sexual fantasies online, that's really weird. And I think when you come into the university, there's training for consent and things like that, which I still don't think is good enough as it is. But I think there also needs to be training for things like incel culture and how to carry yourself online.
Thank you.
The first thing that I would want to do is to be more vocal about what's happening online and LUSU's stance, being very clear that any sort of harassment or discrimination or hate comments that happen online is unacceptable to LUSU. The second thing would be to improve the incident reporting system so that students, when something happens, LUSU can be made aware and students trust that something will be done, because at the moment it's not clear where we can go. And then thirdly, it would just be about following up on any incidents that LUSU was aware of, making sure that rapid action was taken and that students who might have been affected are supported through what happens in the future.
Thank you. Christina.
Yeah, just to echo Kate's point, I think it's about making sure students are aware where they can go, because obviously regarding university mental health facilities, sometimes things get lost in translation and students can find it really difficult, oh, who should I go to if I'm having this issue or struggling. So I think it's important about making students aware who they can report it to, who they can go to if they do feel offended or triggered by certain content. Again, I think LUSU, it's important for them to sort of make it clear that they don't tolerate things like hate speech and things like, sexual harassment online. So yeah, content that does describe quite in-depth and, misogynistic things, I think we need to make a stance and make sure we say that's not tolerated. And I also think messaging the confession pages, if you see something and you think that shouldn't have been posted, that's not right. I know sometimes they've targeted people and they've posted things where it's very obvious it's about someone in particular. I think it's important to pull that up and be like, this shouldn't have been posted, can you please take this down? It's about sort of accountability, but also making sure students feel supported.
Thank you. Any more questions in the room? Harrison.
Hello. A couple of years ago, the candidate pool was in a pretty sorry state in that there was quite a lot of men running and only one or two female candidates, and we've had sort of an equal harmony for the past couple, but this year it's almost flipped. There's plenty of female candidates, but only one male candidate. Why is it that LUSU keeps getting that wrong? Why is it that there's never really an equal candidate pool, and what would you guys want to do to fix that?
I it's hard to look at a single year and pick it out and sort of understand why something might have gone wrong, just because it's such a small number of students. But I've thought about sort of why, especially for president, there's sort of 4 Women's Plus candidates, and potentially one of the reasons I think is the rise in misogyny, and that we're fed up with it and we want to take a stand and see women empowered to be able to act on these issues. But as a whole, yeah, I think we'd have to look more in detail at sort of the trends over time, over a longer period than just 1 year.
Christine.
Yeah, I'm probably going to echo a lot of what Sam said, to be honest, but I do think that would probably have to be quite an in-depth, detailed, sort of research project to carry out and look at the different conditions per year. But again, this year, all I can think about as a woman who studied sociology and politics, so I do study a lot of the current affairs and current climate, I think it does have a lot to do with the political climate this year, and obviously, well, this academic year that I'm speaking about, I think it's sort of a lot to do with the fact that us as women have just decided, let's step up and actually try and make a change and activate some sort of campaign against, what's going on at the moment with the rise of the far right and everything else in the world. But yeah, I think my overall answer to that is I'd have to carry out some sort of extensive research project to look at year upon year, because I think it's probably very different depending on, lots of contributing factors. But this year it would have to be the political climate, like externally. I think that has ensured that.
Ursula will come to you.
Bless you. I don't know. I'm probably the wrong person to answer this question. I don't know, they might be intimidated by me. I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly am not very sure. I think to prescribe one gender to a specific role and say because there are no male candidates for president, LUSU is doing something wrong isn't necessarily the way to look at it. I'm honestly quite pleased that all 4 presidential candidates are Women's Plus representation. I think it's a testament to how the union at least does something right and is empowering women to run for positions like this, and they feel as though they have the opportunity to come forward and to speak their minds and to run campaigns like this. But honestly, yeah, I think if you want to look at it like that, it would be a much further in-depth investigation than I can give you right now.
Thank you. I'm going to take a question from online now. So with students' unions like LSE, Cambridge, York, Queen Mary's disaffiliating with the NUS, and Liverpool just yesterday voted to do the same with extra with. What is your opinion on the NUS and the student union's affiliation to it, including the membership fee we pay, which for context is around £22,000 to £24,000 a year? Should the SU hold a vote on its affiliation to the NUS? Would anyone like to take that first?
I think yes, we should be discussing this and holding a vote on our membership. Obviously preceded by a lot more information, because I don't think students are aware of even what the NUS does, let alone sort of why so many student unions are disaffiliating from it. It's something I've looked into and have an opinion on, although I don't think that's necessarily important. I think we need to engage the whole student body in looking at where £22,000 are going and whether the NUS actually represents us and what we want to stand for and what we want to work on, because I don't always think that's the case.
Thank you. We're going to go to Kate next.
I think it's definitely something that students need informing on. There should be, more open channels of communication about what the NUS is, what it does, why we're affiliated. But I think it should also be made clear to students that if we disaffiliate, that money that would be spent on a membership fee would then be ring-fenced for a few years. So students then wouldn't immediately see the benefits. They would at least be clearly communicated that that money would sit waiting for if we decided to re-affiliate. But I think just making sure students are aware of what unis have disaffiliated and why, and the reasons why Lancaster might do so is the next step.
Ursula?
If you take a look at me, do I look like I know what NUS is? What is it?
The National Union of Students.
Yeah, that sounds alright. Genuinely, I've never heard of this before. This is not even a bit, I have no idea what it is.
Christina, last one.
Thank you. Yeah,
So the National Union of Students is sort of where the easiest terms to put it in is sort of where like a lot of different presidents and student delegates from different universities come together. That's the easiest terms, I guess. That membership fee is extortionate, honestly. That I've just been made aware about that. That's really interesting to know. I think it'd be a really interesting debate to have as students to really decide whether that money could be spent better elsewhere, which it probably could. I do think it's important to be part of that group with different working students from different universities, different backgrounds, different areas. I do think it's important to have that. However, I do think there should be some sort of student consultation from this university as to decide, do we want that money going elsewhere?
Thank you. Back to the room. Any questions in the room? Okay, where should I go? Liam is over there. I'm going to go to this gentleman over here.
A few of you have spoken about creating sort of a travel access fund, sort of open up the environment on campus to more people, make travel more accessible. Obviously with that comes a cost to the SU. Where are you looking to sort of pick up that cost? I know you said if we not become a member of the NUS, that money sort of sits there and we don't see the benefit of that. And also the SU operates as a charity and the money has to come from somewhere. So are we looking at a situation where sort of other departments, maybe sport or another area in the SU sort of suffers from that? Or are you looking to sort of attract sort of external investment into the SU?
Christina.
The last thing I would ever want to do is take money from anywhere else. Obviously, every area of the uni is already suffering with costs, so that is the last thing I'd ever want to do, and I don't believe I would prioritise this travel access fund over things like the current state that sports and societies and everything else at the university is in. I am looking more at external things, so I'm looking at having meetings with the university higher management, I'm looking at having meetings with Stagecoach, and I'm looking at having meetings with alumni as well, sort of promoting it. As we know, the Sports Access Fund was a lot to do with an alumni donation, so I think exploring that avenue would be really interesting. And again, it's about taking money from the university. I would never ever deprive any other part of student life to gain this. It would definitely be an external cost that I'd be looking at.
Just down the lines.
Yeah, I would add to that I think as Emily mentioned earlier, the university and the new Vice-Chancellor is aware that LUSU is underfunded and its budget has been cut in real terms each year, and they appear willing to consider increasing the budget. I think that's the most important thing that the union can push for from the university, because it's sort of unsustainable at the moment having to go and keep asking for the access fund, for the potential transport fund, and an increase in the block grant would mean that LUSU has the freedom to be able to invest where it sees fit and to support its students as best as possible. So that's the avenue that I would really look into pursuing.
Yeah, so when I talk about the travel access fund, it is never with the intention of taking money from elsewhere in the union. It would be entirely externally funded, primarily by the university. We pay a lot of tuition to attend this university. They're already pricing students out of living on campus. They shouldn't be pricing us out of accessing the campus either. So lobbying for an access fund would come directly from the university itself, or alumni donations. As previously mentioned, the Vice-Chancellor seems very keen to work with us and to make changes that are necessary, so it would never come from somewhere within the union.
So I'm pretty good with finances, and I think we should just print more money. I can't see how this would be a problem, but yeah, I think we should just invest in a money printing machine.
Thank you. Questions in the room still? At the back, Leah, your pick.
Is it on? Oh, it is on. Great. I'm just trying to find my question. So, what would all of the candidates do to support students of the care leaver and estranged status? Notably, with the rising cost of living and the university cutting the dedicated funding for summer accommodation, it's been getting more and more difficult for some of these students, especially people who, I don't know, don't work or they've kind of just come to the university. Yeah, what kind of support could you put in place for these people?
Ursula first.
This is a pretty serious question, but I'm probably not the person to answer it.
I'm sorry, please can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so certain students, caregivers, estranged, or people with an estranged status, there was originally, I believe, a university fund to help support these people, which notably got cut in the last couple of years, few years. Would you have any plans to reinstate this fund or provide support for them in some other way?
Absolutely. So, there's a lot of money that moves around the university, and a lot of times if you talk to high management, you ask where that money goes, they often give you the response of, oh, it's kind of wishy-washy. You know, we don't pay tuition to attend this university to be told stuff like that. Pushing for clear and transparent communication as to where that kind of money goes would be the first step, and then to implement some sort of forum or access fund for students to put forward cases as to why they need financial support and need aid would be a good step forward. University needs to do a lot more to recognise exactly the wide variety of student groups that attend the university, and the fact that not just one level of support is good enough. There needs to be a lot of different levels of support available to students.
Go back down the line again.
That seems like something that it definitely would be worth pursuing, and that it sounds like it was a really valuable scheme. So I would definitely be willing to talk to students who are affected, who maybe used it in the past and benefited from it, and to push the university to reinstate it again. And then beyond that, I think what LUSU can do, even with limited funds, is to support those students and help them through maybe applying for grants and looking for money elsewhere, and just raising sort of awareness of the services that they can provide, so that all students feel like when they have issues, there's somewhere they can go and someone who will actually help them.
Yeah, I think it's just about meeting with these students who are struggling, gathering information, gathering surveys to put forward towards the uni to, improve the evidence for, the money that we need for this fund. And that's definitely something I'd explore, I think, if there are loads of students struggling with it. And these are the kind of students as well who would look at prioritising things like the Travel Access Fund for those people who are really struggling with the university finances.
Thank you. Back to the room. Lucas. I'll give you up there.
Oh, is this yeah, it's working. You guys are probably sick of hearing me yap, but a question to all but Usul, who doesn't really seem to like the idea of supporting students in the cost of living crisis, or at least that's what you said in the interview. Anyway, I digress. My question to all the candidates is, you've talked about getting all of these companies like UPP, who manage the accommodation, Stagecoach, the university, all of them together to discuss student affordability and how they can help students. I think the current FTOs can attest to how difficult that has been. How feasible do you think it is that you will be able to get people like Stagecoach, the university, UPP, back to a discussion table to discuss things like affordability for students?
Okay, first.
So I think with backing from university higher-ups, like the Vice-Chancellor, is a good step forward. I think if you can gather enough students, if you can lobby hard enough, if you can gather enough data, there's enough of a reason to fight for a meeting. And even if it's a long and drudgery period of fighting to even speak to a human, it's so easy to email someone and just get met back with a million robots before you actually speak to someone. I think just pushing and lobbying and campaigning is all we can do, and it's hard, but it's something that I've pushed for, even just trying to talk to retail about when they close Lonsdale Bar. It's not something that I don't have experience in.
Thank you. Christina?
Yeah, I never said it would be easy. I know it will be difficult and it will test me. But I think it's definitely about, first of all, you want to gather the data from students, you want to do surveys, you want to meet people, you want to send out questionnaires, you want to send out Google Forms, you want to gather as much evidence as you can that students are struggling with this, and this is a huge issue, which is on campus. I'm talking about Stagecoach and bus prices. And then I think it's about a lot of building connections. I think getting those face-to-face times with people is really important, because you want to make an impression on them, and you want to be personable, and you want to build a connection with them, because that way it will be a lot easier to get them to sort of go in your direction. And again, backing from higher university officials, such as, get your student union, get your motion put through UA, which I can then take and present them with and be like, the student body want this. Vice-Chancellor, he's really lovely, and I believe with his backing it will be a lot more doable and a lot easier. But I do know it will be a challenge, but throughout my nearly 3 years in LUSU, I've been met with plenty of challenges, and I'm here now, so hopefully that's not something I can't overcome.
So the university is well aware of the issues affecting students around affordability, and if we're going to talk about buses, I know that the university is looking to engage in discussions with Stagecoach because they've realised that there's no more parking places. So I think that sort of attests to the work that's been done before with previous FTOs, and shows that having all these meetings, forming relationships, pushing for student voice is not futile, it's just very, very slow. So that's definitely something I will continue to do, and build relationships with people across the university to sort of implement changes at different levels. So I've worked with catering quite a lot before, and that's somewhere where we can see changes to potential food prices and food provision that could respond quicker than sort of bigger discussions with like actors like Stagecoach. And then in the meantime, I'd add that LUSU itself could be doing a lot more to support students, for example, with the food pantry, with providing affordable meals, and with sort of signposting the access funds and things like that.
Thank you. There's been a hand up here for a very long time, so Leo, I'm going to make you run. Before that, Ursula, did you want to answer my question? Please. Right. That's Leo's making away.
I'm going to answer this out of spite. So, completely seriously, this is something that is genuinely, it's a massive topic, because, I mean, I used to drive to campus, and now I take a bus, which doesn't really matter, but I have found genuinely it is not that much really more expensive to drive than it is to come by bus, which is crazy because that should never be the case. When you're kind of having to lobby or work with such big companies as UPP and Stagecoach, you need to find other universities that have the same problems as you, because yes, this university could be like, oh my god, like UPP is charging me this much. If they have accommodation, I don't know, somewhere else in the UK, you need to find these common issues, and I mean everybody's in the same boat right now with how much money they have. Kind of coming together, talking about policy changes, because I mean people are being rinsed dry and it's just not acceptable. I hope that answered your question.
Okay.
Thank you, Rory. My question is, how would you plan on removing the stigma that still exists for students seeking support for disabilities and the cost of living, especially if they make use of things such as the food pantry or discounted food? Thank you.
Sam?
So what I'd like to see is provisions that are available to all students. So I guess the pantry is something that would potentially be only accessed by a small number of students, but it depends on how it's sort of presented and advertised. And as long as it's something that's easy and is sort of an like a main offering of the Students' Union, not something that's presented as just reserved, then I think that would help overcome the stigma. And so it goes further than just having a food pantry, it goes to providing affordable food for everybody. It's, I guess, the bus prices and rent prices, that is also available to, that would benefit everyone, because a lot of students won't see themselves as being in poverty, but when you look at the statistics, the increase in prices is hitting like huge proportions of the student population. So I think it's something that does need to be addressed more globally, and I think that would help to tackle the stigma about it, as long as you're addressing what LUSU is doing as something that's accessible for all students.
Thank you. Christine?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, everyone is in the same boat at the minute regarding the cost of living crisis. Everyone's feeling the repercussions of that. But I think it's about making sure when you do advertise initiatives and campaigns, you're making it easy, accessible and subtle. You know, just making sure that campaigns and initiatives and, you know, resources that students can use, making sure that they are easy to get to, subtle in a way that it's not saying, hey everyone, if you can't afford food at the moment, come into this, you know, open space in Alex Square and get food. You know, making sure it's somewhere, a nice, quiet space for people, and accessibility-wise, just making sure that anyone and everyone can get there.
Thank you. Ursula?
Yeah, I guess that kind of mirrors what I was going to say. I think it's, I mean, not necessarily that Lancaster does this, but I have seen in some places where it's been like, come and get this food because you're poor, which obviously is not well worded. I mean, not everybody kind of needs to be in this situation, and it's a hard one, and I think a lot of people they feel a bit crushed by the stigma. And sometimes it might even help, sometimes having these events where you can sign up and you can get like a time slot to go in that might make you feel a bit more comfortable, because I know sometimes there's free food and there's lines and lines of people. Those kind of events will probably help, just for a bit of like secrecy for the people. Well, not secrecy, but a bit of a quieter, not as overwhelming space for people that just don't want to go and get free food when there's like a line of a load of people and they might recognise the people and that might make them feel uncomfortable.
Kate.
Yeah, so I think a big reason that a lot of people don't know that every college comes with a food bank is because they are in these very like hidden and discreet locations. I think if you make them in a more neutral and a more friendly and open environment, you're more likely to get people feeling more comfortable accessing them. If you have neutral signposting, if they're in neutral locations, and the way that they're presented to students isn't access for all, you'll definitely get rid of a lot of the stigma surrounding accessing them, even putting them in social spaces, because then anyone and everyone can approach, and you'll see people walking past. People probably won't even notice that you're going into it. Would probably help reduce the stigma.
Thank you. Any more questions in the room? Okay, we are going to go over here. This will be the last 3 questions to wrap up.
Sorry to take for my voice. There are a range of gossip pages on Instagram that post misogyny, racism, etc., which are an online representation of an increasingly hateful culture on campus. How would you suggest handling this culture while recognising the limitations of your role?
Sam?
The first thing I do, which I mentioned previously, is being more vocal in LUSU's stance, and the fact that we don't accept discrimination, misogyny, hate speech, anything that might be strongly impacting on the well-being or the experience of LUSU's members. So that's something that is easy to do within the limitations of LUSU. LUSU has its own policies on discrimination and on the rest of these issues, which are in favour of standing up for students and on speaking out. So another thing that I would look to do is to empower students to speak up when they see things happening and to know how to respond, because a lot of students are aware of the increasingly hostile culture. They want to do something about it, but they don't really have the tools or the confidence to do so. And while LUSU itself can't police or patrol every single student group, they can empower student leaders and members of societies and groups to be confident and to have the skills that they might need to ensure that their groups are as inclusive as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, go Christina.
Thank you. Yeah, again, it's about signposting where students can find support if they do feel affected by certain content online, making sure they feel like they can approach LUSU for support again. But also, yeah, LUSU need to sort of make a stance and post their policy and, you know, let's talk about our zero tolerance for certain things like harassment and misogynistic comments, which we've seen a lot of online. And yeah, I want to make sure that a lot of students do feel like they can ask to make sure content is taken down when it's posted, because there are certain things, so targeted posts and misogynistic posts that are posted, and it's just not fair. It's not fair. It offends students, and also when it's really obvious who that student is, which has happened quite a few times, that's especially not right, because that can really affect that person. So it's making sure students can feel supported by their student union when their post does affect them. It's also making sure student union can make sure they're posting with their stance on it, and they can be, you know, harsh on it, because again, it can't really be tolerated.
Thank you. Kate, go.
I think this last year we've really seen how powerful it is when student groups use their voice. Multiple JCRs have put out statements surrounding incidents that occurred during Freshers Week, the rent prices rising. I think encouraging student groups to use their voices is a really great way to create a large stance against this culture of misogyny and hate that's growing online. Also, again, signposting the support available for if you are affected by comments like this, and making sure that students are aware of LUSU's stance.
I'm being way more serious in this than I thought I'd be when I put on this makeup today. So, I mean, kind of saying what I said earlier, I don't think that the university is taking a good enough stance with, I mean, when you join the university you have to do consent training, right? I don't think there is enough information about things like incel culture and things about harassment, and the training that they give isn't good enough. I mean, when you get a job where you're actively like interacting with people, you have to do training to prevent these kind of things happening and spot what's going on and know what it is. And like with radicalisation and things like that. And I don't understand when you've got a load of 18-plus-year-olds, let's say, coming into a new space together, why you wouldn't make them aware of these things and how it could affect them, how they could fall into these like pipelines, how they could be victimised by it and where to go and what to do. And I just don't really think it's good enough, and I think LUSU definitely needs to take, first of all, a stance, and second of all, lobby the university into changing how they go about these things, pretty much. Yeah, sorry, I'm not being very clown-like right now, but...
That's fine, thank you. Back to the room. Okay, we've only got time for 2 more, so I'm going to focus on people who haven't asked a question before, which I think are 2 people over here, so we'll go with the person closest to you.
Hi, what like green policies, sustainability policies would you support, because it's really important in the growing climate crisis?
We're going to start with Ursula.
Yes. This is more my type of thing. So I have mentioned earlier today, somebody asked me what I would do for green policies, and my answer is it's like really cold right now. So I think we need to burn more fossil fuels to make climate change worse, because I am absolutely freezing right now.
Perfect, yeah, we'll go down the line.
So there's obviously a lot of green policies already in place. I think encouraging more and more student groups to take part in Eco Challenge is a really good step forward, making students more aware of green initiatives that are happening actively. I can't remember what it's called, but it's near Lonsdale. The Eco Hub is extremely underutilised. No one goes there, no one knows what happens there. I think bringing back students engaging with those kind of green spaces on campus and working alongside the staff that also want to pursue green initiatives is a really good step.
Thank you. Christina?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's about promoting what policy and initiatives are already in place, because again, I don't think a lot of students are aware of the amount of work that LUSU does to contribute to sustainability goals. So I think it's about promoting a lot of that already, that already is in place, but also it's about, part of my manifesto is to encourage student activism and campaigning on campus. I think we have this great space, Alex Square, that's not really used for a lot. It's, you know, it's an amazing space, it's on campus, it's a safe space for students to be able to express their campaigns and activists. So I think it would be great for students to campaign for environmental change and climate change and, you know, sustainability initiatives in that space campus has Alex Square, because again, I do want to really encourage student activism throughout my manifesto.
So the university declared a climate emergency in 2022, I believe, and since then they've been trying to do lots of things to make themselves look green and present themselves as an eco-friendly university, which is not really working for them since they're only 71st of all universities in the sort of People and Planet Sustainability ranking. But there still is a desire in the university to be an environmentally friendly university. It's one of their sort of big selling points with the sort of net zero centre that they're implementing, especially, and the solar panels and yeah, things like that. So I've already been involved in different student campaigns working on sustainable food and breaking careers ties with fossil fuel companies. This is meant I've engaged in discussions with different members of university staff
and there is a willingness to move towards more sustainable practices, it just is often not the priority, and so it needs to be keep sort of reminding and pointing out where actually the university could invest its money to make real, actual, genuine positive change, rather than just projects that might seem good but actually just cost a lot of money. So it's about being aware of where we should be pushing and continually meeting and encouraging the university to do so. And then going back to the point about encouraging student campaigns, that's also really important and is linked to sort of the work that I would want to do to engage more students in LUSU and empower them to speak up on issues that they're affected by.
Thank you. Back to the room, final question. I do believe it's up there.
When the uni is already struggling with recruitment, why do you think management isn't putting more money into things students actually care about when they have money for other ventures like the Ruskin Library, which no one cares about?
You want to say that first?
I think the university spends a shocking amount of money on things that students don't care about, and it is genuinely, I believe, due to the complete and utter lack of consultation with students. Last time we went to Student Experience Committee, they put forward a student consultation framework, and it was met with so much backlash because they just don't, university higher-ups don't seem to understand the importance of student voice and student opinion. They're kind of just throwing money wherever they want to put it. This new Vice-Chancellor is a really good step forward because he seems really keen on change and listening to students, but for years university higher-ups have just not wanted to or not bothered with engaging with students on an actual necessarily level. They'll maybe talk to 2 students, they'll do a survey, maybe to get opinions about decisions that are made, but they don't go any further than that. Pushing for actual student consultation from every level and every decision made is a really important part of my manifesto, and for making sure that students' voices are actually heard by the university.
Thank you. We're going to Christine next.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've seen through things like the bar closures and CTP that students aren't consulted on the kinds of decisions that are made about budgets, where money goes, things like that. We also see it with the college fee. Again, a lot of JTRs do not have clarity on where that money goes, and that is a fee you pay directly to your college. So why do you not know where it goes? And one of my main manifesto points is student-led decision-making. So that encompasses things like students getting a say on those sort of higher committees that decide where money goes, what's the budget for this, what's the budget for that, what can we do next with the money. So I just think it's down to the lack of consultation with students. However, I think the present role on LUSU is a really influential role because you do have a seat on a lot of those decision-making bodies where you can say, listen, this can't be spent here, that can't be spent here. So I think that a way to prevent that is to help involve students in higher decision-making.
Thank you. Sam.
There's a big opportunity, as we've mentioned before, with the new Vice-Chancellor and changes in senior management. And I've heard from him himself that he wants to increase the dialogue between students and staff and make our university a lot more collaborative, because recently it's just been decisions imposed from the top. So pushing for the student engagement framework would be really important in that. And making sure that the university understand what students value on campus and where the value actually comes from, so that they're not taking money from the things that they're also dependent on to be able to recruit new students.
Thank you. Finally, LUSU.
I feel that's so serious. This topic irks me. Genuinely, I know for a fact that they really just don't want to listen to us, and I think we should just flatten the Ruskin to teach them a lesson. Honestly, I think that is the best way we could spend our money. That's all.
Nice and quick. And that brings us to the end of candidates' questions. Thank you very much to our presenters. Any members of the audience who had questions that you didn't feel were answered, there is a link on the LA1 TV live stream on YouTube. Please keep going to submit those questions there. We'll make sure the candidates get to see them, and they'll be able to answer them if they would like to. But I would like to thank you all for attending here on campus. I would like to thank everyone who's been watching online.